As we're getting all settled in. So, all right. With that, if I said stop and drop, what would you say? Roll, right? Because that's what we were taught. Did anybody, when they were growing up, have like a little trailer show up to their school and it had like a fake bedroom set up and you would get in there and like it would start smoking? Did anybody do that? Yes, yes. You really missed out if you didn't get to do that. You'd have to put your hand like this on the thing, right? We know stop, drop, and roll. We have fire drills. We have fire escapes. We have exit signs even right in here I'm looking at, right? We understand. So then I have a question. Is fire good or bad? Right? Is fire good or bad, right? If you lived in Southern California this year, you probably would say fire is bad as it destroyed so many homes. But if you went camping, and not in August in Texas, but if you went camping over the winter, you would say fire is amazing, right? We need the fire. It keeps us warm. It gives us light. Fire keeps things going. Fire is good and bad, right? It can be destructive, but it can also be delivering. It could save us. So really, it's not that fire is good or fire is bad, even though you're going to tell your kids, fire's bad, don't touch it, right? Fire is neutral. It's how it is used and it's what it is doing that determines the quality of fire. As we step into today discussing money, here's what I need you to understand very clearly. Money is neutral. Money is neutral. The problem is our heart isn't, right? And so the Bible has to teach us a lot about money because our heart is not neutral. Our heart is sinful, and we want to make the love of money the God of our lives. And so today, what I want us to understand, first and foremost, is there's nothing wrong inherently with money. The problem is when it takes control of our lives. And the Bible talks a lot about money. The Bible celebrates how much money was given to build the temple and how elaborate and how awesome it was made. The Bible talks about that if we're not careful, the love of money is the root of all evil and it will lead us down destructive paths. That money is resourceful and we need it. It talks about how a minuscule offering of a widow was more meaningful than anybody else is giving, and it talks about how this man that wants to build bigger barns and more silos to hold all of his grain because he was so successful was misunderstanding the blessing that he had received. The Bible will tell us to bring our tithes, to be a cheerful giver. It will tell us to offer our best, to give our first fruits. There's a whole lot of things that the Bible talks about. There's a whole lot of sermons to be preached, but that's not what I'm doing today. What I have learned throughout is this. God is not concerned with how much money you have. God is concerned with how you handle what you have. Do you steward it well? I look over here at Jason Madison, who just got married and starting their first jobs, and I remember as Carlin was starting her first job in teaching, and we lived a lot differently than we do now. And maybe as you're stepping into retirement, you can look back and go, man, those were some hard days. But now I have easier days. But we can still honor God no matter where we are, whether we have an abundance or whether we're barely scraping by. We can honor God with money, or we can dishonor God. Here is a big concept I want you to think about. I don't know that I've ever seen this out there, but I think it's really important for us to remember. God cares about how you handle 100% of your money, not just 10%. God cares how you handle all of your money, not just the tithe and whether I should give that or not. We need to understand that everything needs to be done in an understanding of who He is and what is going on. Sorry, they're coming back. That's all good. So, with that said, we have to understand that it's going to talk about all that we do. And God is not just some bill collector keeping tabs of whether you've given or not. God cares a lot more about what's going on within you than what is coming out of you. So today, we're going to talk about money because everybody's talking about money. The Bible talks about money, but every bit of our culture talks about money. Every ad you watch on television or commercial you see is them trying to convince you to take money out of your pocket and put it into theirs. They spend billions and billions of dollars so that they can get your money. You need this insurance, you need to go to this restaurant, you need to drink this drink, you need to take this pill. That is what our ads are about. So this morning, I'm asking the very basic question, what if we took God seriously with our money? What if we took God seriously with our money? So Matthew chapter 6, we're going to start in verse 19 today. Matthew 6:19, and to give you, as you're flipping there, to kind of help you understand where this is, Matthew 6:19 is in the heart of what is called the Sermon on the Mount. It is the greatest sermon that anybody has ever preached. Jesus is using this sermon to teach this whole plethora of things. He will talk about, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. He will talk about how to pray, and he will teach how to pray. He will talk about how we deal with retaliation, how we deal with lust, how we deal with anger. He will tell us to be salt and light. Jesus will include so much in chapters 5 through 7, but right in the heart of it, chapter 6, verse 19, he says this, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." I really do think that this is the heart of God's teaching on money, on finances, on what you make and what you have. Really what he is saying here is not so much about what's a category of on heaven and what's in earth and all that. He is calling us to consider, what are our priorities? What do we treasure most? Are we treasuring things that are temporal, or are we treasuring things that are eternal? Jesus says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Do not put your primary priorities on accumulating wealth, on living in a bigger home, of having better cars, of driving, of going on more extravagant vacations. Why? He says, moth and rust destroy, thieves break in and steal. What does that mean? What that means is this: they do not last. They will erode. They will lose value. They will go down. They will not satisfy you. So think about this. I asked Mike Vessel already one of these questions, but there's two types of gifts you can give somebody around Christmas or their birthday. You can give them a gift in a box that's a product, right? That they open, they pick up, they set in their house somewhere. The other gift that you can offer is an experiential gift, okay? You can give them a gift to a concert. You can give them a gift to a show. You can give them a flight, a vacation, whatever it is. Now, maybe you understand what kind of gift receiver you are. Do you prefer experiential gifts or do you prefer products? So I'll ask you a few questions. Would you rather an amazing meal, a $300 meal where a James Beard awarded chef here in Dallas will allow you to come into the kitchen, set up a table, they pour you a nice glass of Diet Coke or wine or whatever you want to drink, and you sit and you enjoy it. And they tell you about how they're doing this and where these scallops came from and where this grass fed and what kind of grass this cow ate. Or would you rather a $300 KitchenAid mixer? Which one? Who in here says, I want the experience? Okay? Y'all are crazy. Or what about, I asked Mike Vestal, I said, would you rather get to play Pebble Beach, the golf course that the pros play on, the U.S. Open plays on, or would you rather a new set of irons? He was like, I'd rather play Pebble Beach. I was like, you're crazy, Mike. He says, I get new sets of irons every 10 years. I can wait. I am a product gift receiver. That's what I want. I don't care to go to a concert. I'd rather get a bigger television. The Walls, our neighbors, they want to go to all the concerts. They want to do the meet and greets. I just would like, the surround sound system in my house. I'd be cool with that. I don't want the experiential gift because I feel like I waste several $100s on an experience. And it doesn't feel like a good investment for my tight-wadded self, right? I don't feel like it's worthwhile investment. But many of you appreciate those things, and those are memories and all those good things. In a sense, that's what Jesus is calling us to think. He's not saying, go get a KitchenAid mixer today. No, that's not what we're talking about. But he's saying, do you prioritize the things that are temporal, that you experience in a moment? Or do you prioritize the things that are eternal, that will last forever? He says, where moth and rust do not destroy. See, in that day, your wealth was found in precious metals like gold and silver, and also in cloths that were very valuable. So can you imagine trying to keep those in this hot, sandy, dirty place? You're trying to keep your metals hidden so that people don't just break in and steal them, and the rust isn't destroying them. And you're trying to keep the moth out of your clothes, right? I don't think they had mothballs back then. And so, like, we've had all these had sweaters eaten up and all that sort of stuff. This is what they would have to do. And think about it. The wealthier you become, the harder it becomes to protect your stuff. There was no bank to go place it in, no safety deposit box that would keep it secure. The wealthier you became, the more attention your wealth demanded. The more burial spots you had to have for that gold. The more cedar closets you had to build for your clothes and the cloths. We see that even in our day. Sometimes the more that we have, the more focus it takes. Oh, you get a second home? That's 2 homes to clean. Oh, you have a lake house? You have a boat? Yeah, that's just something that's tearing up, right? You have all of these things, and the more that we have, the more that we have to use and take part in to keep it running and to keep it going. In our day, our treasures aren't metals that we hide in the ground, I don't think. But they are our cars, our houses, our electronics, our toys, our experiences. It's overfilling our closets and still not having anything to wear. It's buying a home that has so many bathrooms and we hate cleaning bathrooms. And yet that's what the choices that we're making. Treasures on earth is calling our wants, needs, and saying, well, I've got to go get that taken care of. It's even the security of, will I have enough to live how I want to then? Or will I be able to leave enough for my family when I'm gone? There's not anything wrong with having earthly treasures. We're going to have those things. God's not calling us to be homeless, to be carless, to be starving. He's asking us, Jesus is asking us, do we prioritize the comforts of this world over what God has called us to do and what he wants to do in, through, and around us? So what is a treasure in heaven? Treasure in heaven is, when we treasure heaven, it is trusting God. That your way is good. That your way is right. It's focusing more on the needs of those around me than the wants of my own family. It's focusing on being generous to help out others rather than living in the excess that we've grown accustomed to. Treasure in heaven is thinking about things that last forever rather than about things that will rust soon enough. This fall, we'll get the opportunity to be generous, to make a lasting impact. As we will collect shoe boxes and we will stuff those with toys and toiletries and all that stuff to send across the globe. We're not just sending them toys and toothbrushes, though. We're sending them with heavenly treasures. We're sending them with the gift of God, that he loves them as they are, that he knows them even in this remote place, that he cares about them and he desires them to be with him. We will be blessing people not just with some necessities, but also inviting them to understand who God is and how much he loves them. Treasuring heaven over earth is about treasuring things that last over treasuring things that rot. Jesus is calling us to change our perspective. And he challenges us, for where your treasure is, there your heart is. Think about if you had all that metal and cloths and you were hiding it and you you were going on a trip and you were so worried the whole time, is somebody going to find it? Is somebody going to take it? Is somebody going to steal it? Our days are consumed with thinking about, what else do I need? How do I keep up with them? What can I buy? Should I get that new car? I really like that new car. I think I should get that new car. Suzanne says, well, come and see me. I can make you a deal at Friendly Chevrolet. But our days are consumed. So I ask these questions, and they're going to come up on the screen. Where's your treasure? Where's your focus? Does your focus always sit on money? What about your daily choices? What do they reveal? What about your anxieties? How many of you are so consumed with fear over money right now? And I've been there in some low points. We would drive to the Crystal. Y'all don't even know what Crystal is. We would drive to McDonald's our first 2 months of being married to check our email because we didn't pay for internet. This was in 2011. We understand not having much. But I also understand having my day consumed with money. What do I want to buy? What do I want to eat? What can I afford? What can I get? There was an old truism that said, your checkbook reveals your priorities. And half of you in this room are going, my checkbook doesn't reveal anything. I don't have a checkbook. And the other half of this room is going, how do you operate without a checkbook? Do you have to write checks? How do you pay your water bill? We do that online, right? Like, we operate in this way, but here's the truism updated. Your bank statement will reveal your priorities, doesn't it? Is your priority sleeping in and maybe getting that $8 cup of coffee every single morning because you didn't want to take the time to wake up and do it? Do your priorities say your Bible collects dust, but Bachelor in Paradise is all the way caught up this season? Do your priorities reveal that, oh, I need to drive this car, and now that my car's over 60,000 miles, it's time to get a new one, while I see all these around me hurting and needing things, but I just drive right past them, and it's nice because I don't hear them on the outside because my car is so nice and it's insulated. Look at your bank statement. It'll reveal what you love. Is your money only spent on your wants and wishes, your pleasures and preferences alone? Listen, there's a time for you to enjoy. God gives us money. He provides for us to enjoy our life. But we should not prioritize all of it over Him. Jesus warns that it's actually harder for a rich person to enter into the kingdom of heaven because they can put their faith in their own pleasure, in their own security, in their own comforts. And money can buy all of that. If we're not careful, especially in Western Christianity, we believe that our money can buy heaven on earth. We believe that if we could just live in this house, in this neighborhood, drive this car, go to this school, eat at this restaurant, that we can create heaven on earth. But it's heaven without God, and that's not much of a heaven. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Verse 24, we'll wrap up in that verse today. It says this, no one can serve two masters. For either he will hate one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. I think it's interesting here. Jesus says you cannot serve two masters, and we all begin to think in our head, well, there's a couple of things that I could serve, and Jesus says, no. Let me get to the heart of what you're really going to want to serve. You're going to want to serve money. You're going to want to be a slave to money. That's what the master is, a master and a slave. This isn't I can work two jobs and I can Uber on the side, or I can be Christian on the side and then to be a full-time money hoarder. No, Jesus says this is not an okay option. You can't choose both of them. They are competing loyalties. You cannot serve both God and money. Last week we were faced with this decision of the Bible. Like, what are we going to do with this? Today, Jesus is bringing us to the same decision. What are we going to do with God and our credit cards and our bank accounts and our checking accounts and all of that? He's saying, which will it be? Maybe the better question is, which one will you neglect? Are you more willing to neglect your finances or your God? Which are you willing to not look at for a month? Your finances or God's Word or prayer? Which one are you willing to overlook every single day? Do you get an alert on your phone every time you swipe your credit card and you get to see that? And yet you just swipe past the Bible verse of the day that sits on your home screen. Which one will you neglect? Think about what they offer. Money tells us if you can make enough money, you can buy heaven on earth. You can experience it all. You can go on every trip, see every country. You can do everything you've ever imagined until you can't. But what does money cost? Money requires that you make more, that you have more, that you earn more, that you keep up with those around you, even those that have more than you. Money demands that you work harder and that you'll never be satisfied, doesn't it? It always wants something else. It's always taking. What does God say? The offer of God oftentimes feels like have less, give more, share what you've been given. That offer is not as tempting on the surface. But what does God require? He requires you to put your trust in Him. He requires you to have faith that He will provide and keep providing. That even if He calls you to do something that you don't know how it's going to work out, that you go, yeah, I'll trust you. He calls for you to release control. See, all of us believe we can handle the competing loyalties, but we can't. There's not a God box and then a money box and then a family box. We can't separate these things out. They permeate all across each other. We have to understand how to handle our money, because God is not just asking us for 10%. He's asking us to be good stewards of 100%. I'm going to do a little rearranging of my sermon notes, so I think you'll follow me fine, Suzanne. Last week, we asked the question, will we take the Bible seriously? If this is the sacred Word of God, then why does it just sit and collect dust? If this is the truth that tells us how to live and it tells us how we are loved, then why don't we ever open it and listen to it or believe it when it says that God will take care of us, that God will help us, that the God who saved them wants to save us, that the God who offered grace to that prisoner on a cross is offering grace to me, that the God who cares for the lilies of the field will also care for me? Last week we were asked the question, why don't we do this? Why don't we take it seriously? We even looked at data that says a person who reads the Bible four or more times a week sees loneliness, worries, depression decrease. We see spiritual stagnation start to go away. We see alcoholism go down, reduce significantly, 57%, I believe. We see pornography drop 61%. It has real effects on our real life. And yet we set it off to the side. Today, I ask the question, what if we took God seriously with our money? And I'm going to be honest with you. Taking God seriously with our money, at least for me, is probably the hardest act of faith in my life. Taking God seriously with money is probably your greatest act of faith. Because it's the last thing you want to give up. So some of the fears we have is this. Life's going to get harder. Bills are going to get heavier. Money's going to get tighter. Opportunities and experiences that we enjoy are going to be lessened, maybe. Our fun meter may go down and we don't have the coolest dress every single day. Some of us think that giving God control or even looking to Him to handle our money is such a far-fetched idea that we could never do it. There's not enough money right now as it is. How could I start trusting God with it? There's a lot of us in this room that will say, I am swimming and drowning in debt. There's no way I could do anything generous. Well, then, is your God that good? You think He wants you to be the only Christian that's not generous? You to be the only Christian that doesn't really consider, He made an exception for you? Oh, well, your situation, I didn't think about that. It's not about how much you have, it's how you handle what you have. So what are the benefits of taking God seriously? I'll say this, before you even consider the benefits, most of you don't even want to have this conversation. Most of you are hoping that any conviction you are feeling right now will subside, like what am I trying to say? Like heartburn. It'll just kind of evaporate as the day goes on, that you can sleep it off in your Sunday afternoon nap. Most of you will want to leave this room and not talk with your spouse about what we've just talked about. Most of you are going to leave this room and not want to talk with your kids about what God is convicting of you. Most of you are just going to want to ignore this message, to move on, and to get out of here because we don't want to have an honest look at what our finances look like because we're embarrassed by what they look like. We're embarrassed by what they reveal. So what are the benefits? I don't have data this week, but I really do believe this. I think if we took God seriously with our money, I think we'd start realizing the blessings that He bestows upon us so much more. We would start being appreciative of the good gifts from the perfect giver. I think we would be less anxious about, am I wearing the right clothes? Does my kid have all the right toys? Am I eating at the right places? I think we'd become more generous. I think we would see needs and feel the desire to meet them. I think we would live with much more joy and stop chasing those hits of happiness that money provide. Because those clothes you gave away, and we did the same thing this week, Ashley, those clothes we gave away used to spark joy, and now they're somebody else's. We no longer want them. We'll start having an appreciation. We'll learn contentment. Everything in our culture does not want us to be content. Because if you're content, you're no longer taking money out of your pocket and putting it into theirs. Everything is preying on us being discontent. I think if we started taking money seriously, I don't think Amazon would knock on my door just about every day. They'd probably come once a week, you know. I don't think my fears would be as bold and as real as they are every single day. I think I would start to appreciate things a lot more. So like I asked last week, we asked in our discussion group time, I said, what if you took the Bible seriously? And the people around the room said this. They said, I think I'd be less anxious. I think I'd be less worried. I think I would be have more of an eternal perspective in life. I think I would be at a place where I can handle the challenges that come my way a lot more. That they spoke of all these good things. What I never heard from anybody was this. Well, I'm going to miss out on watching that reality show that I really enjoy. I may not be able to binge this season as fast. I'm going to miss a few Facebook posts that I really need to see, or a few TikToks that I really want to laugh at. No, nobody shared any of those things. They shared, I think my life would be better if I took the Bible seriously. Can we think the same thing about our money? So giving is a practice that we have done as a family since we got married and before that. It's been, God convicted me at one point and said that really the challenge that He got with me with this verse is this. He said, you are prioritizing your future that you may or may not have over me and the church that's working right now. And I felt really challenged by this. He said, you're giving more to retirement than you are to the church. And from that day forward, it happened about 5 years ago, I said, I've got to make a change. So now our greatest line item in our budget, outside of our mortgage, is to the church. It's not out of necessity. It's because this is what God has really shown me and taught me through this. So why do I give? I'll show you a few things why I give. I give because God commands us to. God commands us to. It's in the Bible. I give because it's an act of worship. The thing I want to worship more than anything is money and what it can buy. But when I give it away, it's an act of worship. I give because it's an act of faith. It'd be really nice to have what we have at the end of the year back in our pockets. But I'm trusting God to provide. I give as a response to the grace that I've received. We'll end with that. And then I give because I believe in the work of the church, in the work of this church. You know, this church only exists because people like you give. We only can keep the lights on because of that. We don't have external grants. We don't have government funding. We don't have any of those sort of things. We pay our people. We pay our bills. And we do ministry in this community because of your support of it. This church, a few years ago, didn't know if they were even going to be able to keep doing those things. We exist because people like you are still giving and are still committed to believing in what this church is doing. So I'm gonna push this now to really the best reason why we give, and I'm going to end there. We give in response to the one who gave for us. We give a portion of what God blesses us with because God gave us the fullness of what we needed. We had a debt that we could never pay. We, as sinful, as selfish, as fruit-eating individuals every single day of our life, lived in rebellion and rejection to God, and God says, I'm going to step down. Jesus says, I'm stepping down from the treasures of heaven to come to the place where moth and rust destroy, because I want to bring you there with me, and you need me. So Jesus emptied himself, Philippians 2 says, taking on the form of a servant to the point of death, even death on a cross, and he experienced that as a gift for us to pay the real debt that we owe. So when we consider all that we receive in a month, the money that we make and the gifts that we receive, we don't look at those as say, oh, look at what I have earned. We look and we say, look at how God has blessed me every single month. And how can I live in response to that blessing? What if we took seriously our money? What if we viewed 100% of everything that we take in and want to steward all of it well? Not just, am I writing a 10% check or not? What if we really thought about that? God doesn't want your money. He wants you. God doesn't want your money. He wants you. And he knows that one of the greatest detractors from giving yourself to him is your money. He knows that the thing that is more tempting to you to hold back, the area of your life that is the hardest to release, the thing that you don't want to give him is your money. God isn't here just to get rich off of you. He can do whatever he wants with or without you. He wants you. Let me pray for us. Dear God, I pray today that